beings
are being bombarded by conscious and subconscious mind control programs
on a minute-by-minute basis on this beautiful planet we call Earth. From the mainstream media, advertising and subliminal advertising we see on the TV, at the movies, and every time you walk around your local stores. It's now thought that microwave energy is being used against us, possibly by the myriad of cell phone towers and satellite systems that hover around us. It seems we're not safe wherever we are in the world. It's a known fact that the powers that be were working on combining microwave signals and audio back in the 60s, when they were experimenting on how to control people for their nefarious ends. If you've woken up to what's happening in the world today, and you're starting to see that all is not what you thought it was, and many things just don't sit right in your mind, one of the questions you may be asking yourself is, what can you do to stop this highly intrusive form of mind control? Joining me today is Stewart Swerdlow. Stewart is a gifted hyperspace intuitive. He moves his consciousness beyond time and space to determine your foundational mind pattern upon which all your life experiences are based. His great-uncle Yakov Swerdlow was the first president of the Soviet Union, and his grandfather helped form the Communist Party in the United States in the 1930s. To ensure that his loyalty stayed with the US government, he was recruited for specific mind-controlled experiments, including 13 years at the Mountuk Project, which enhanced his natural abilities. He now spends his time traveling the world, running courses on helping people to deprogram themselves. His mission is to help others heal themselves in a positive way, thus avoiding the negativity he has experienced. Stewart Swerdlow, welcome to New Dimensions TV.
Thank you, Richard. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
It's great that you can join me today, Stewart. I know our viewers are going to get a lot of great information from this session with you. Now, I know you're going to embark on a tour of Europe called Hyperspace Healing and Deprogramming Seminars, which will take place in many locations and venues, starting in August this year. And we're going to talk more in detail about that later in our interview. But for now, I know our viewers would like you to give us some further information on yourself and the time you spent at the Mountuk Project, because this is where your mind programming and expanded awareness really started to happen for you.
Thank you, Richard. And in order to explain that, which is quite a vast topic, I would have to go over my family history just a little bit more so that the listeners can understand why I was taken into service at the Mountuk Project. As you mentioned, my great-uncle Yakov Swerdlow was the first president of the Soviet Union, but he had 8 brothers and sisters, my grandfather being one of the brothers. And my grandfather was sent actually to the UK initially to help start the Communist Party there, which he did in the Liverpool area. And from there, he went over to the United States to work with the Communist Party there. My grandmother, Maya Sverdlov, was a Soviet spy during World War II, but I would like the viewers and listeners to know that, of course, during World War II, the Western world and the Soviet Union were on the same side against Nazi Germany. But what's even more intriguing, which I found out during a trip to Russia in 2012, that one of my other great uncles, Benjamin Sverdlov, actually started mind control and programming in the Soviet Union in the 1930s. So this was one of the earliest time periods that I had heard of in the Western world where mind control began in a major country. And Yakov's son, Alexei, actually, my distant cousin in a way, started the KGB. So because of all of that background, my father in the United States was used in secret experiments under a mountain in El Paso, Texas. And when I was born, my father told me that he was followed by Secret Service for a couple of years, and probably, maybe still is. But that is why I was taken into service in Mountuk from 1970 to 1983. And at the time, You might recall that we were in the midst of a Cold War, and loyalties were questioned. And despite the United States being a so-called democratic and free society, that was really only on the surface. And as people well know by now, most countries are not that way. And there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So I didn't have much of a choice when I was taken to be used in the Mountuk Project. They were also looking for specific genetics. They realized from Nazi experiments during World War II that those who had lighter hair, lighter eyes, for example, were more usable, or their DNA accepted more programming as a download, as opposed to people who have darker hair, darker skin, darker eyes, who do not have the enzyme in their genetics to allow for the programming to be downloaded. And that is why there's been an effort since World War II to eliminate those groups of people who have the darker skin and darker complexions. And it's only because they're not as programmable as the lighter skinned people. And so this was part of what I did in Mountuk during the experimentation. It was more than just mind control and programming. There was a vast range of subjects and experimentations that were used. There was sexual ritual magic, which is a completely vast topic. There was also esoteric weaponry, which today we're seeing the results of those. There was weather manipulation, which we have also seen since the 1970s, and which has backfired on those who control the world. And then, of course, there was the mind control and programming, which was taken actually from alien technology and alien information. And it was discovered somewhere in the mid-70s that the information some of these alien groups gave to the governments were not exactly accurate, or they were incomplete. And so the government enhanced or accentuated their work at the Mountuk Project and other locations in order to find out the truth of what this information was about. One of the major areas that I was involved in was what's called hyperspace language or hyperspace energy. And for all intents and purposes, this is the foundational energy of creation, the God mind, if you will, all that is, whatever words you want to use. And from this hyperspace energy comes below this, or more dense energy, is the astral layers, and then the final densities are the physical realities. And I say that in plural because it's realized even now in quantum physics, etc., that there are infinite realities, that there are many frequencies that exist or coexist, taking up the same space, if you will, but we can't see them because they're vibrating at a different rate of energy. So that was another major category that I was involved in during the Mountuk Project. And this led into also interdimensional work, wormholes, vortices, and even time travel, which is all related to the hyperspace energies.
As I mentioned in my introduction, many believe we're being bombarded by all types and forms of energies at the moment. And if you put these energies together with what they're doing to us with fluoride in the water, the vaccines, the chemtrails, and GMO food, there's definitely an agenda. What's your considered view on what this agenda is, and how does it relate to the alien and extraterrestrial hierarchy?
Well, Richard, that is a huge question, as you well know, and there are many possibilities, and I'm going to give you some of them. Basically, if I bottom line the entire situation, what the end result or the conclusion of it that they wish it to be, is to have a creation of a Borg society. Many of the viewers may have seen the Borg on Star Trek, and there's a reason why. They have those creatures on the screen as a depiction, because that is the kind of society they wish to create, part organic, part technological, all controlled by computer and satellite, so that no one deviates from their functions and programming. That is a serious matter because now it's global. There was a time when it was in the process, but now here in this 21st century, it's completely global in nature. Programming used to be, or by necessity, you would have to take the person, put them through traumatic experiences to fracture the mind, which they discovered from the Nazi concentration camp efforts, that if you fracture a human mind to the limit that it can be fractured, it creates an energetic figure of a cube of 13 by 13 by 13, meaning there's a total of 2,197 possible compartments or alters that can be programmed into either full personalities, subpersonalities, constructs, ribbon alters, all kinds of subroutines. And that's why in the Star Trek movies, the Borg fly in a cube. There's a symbolism behind that. And the agenda is mostly, originally, of a reptilian nature. And those of you who have read my Blue Blood book or my True World History book know that I talk about how the reptilians were actually the first ones to colonize this planet after they terraformed it, which is another big story. And so now what we have is this reptilian agenda, more towards androgyny, not so much differentiation of the sexes as we're seeing in the media. We're also seeing the creation. Now, this is the interesting part. The Illuminati, or the ones who control the planet, the 13 ruling families, are actually at this point working against the Draco Empire because they want to create their own new galactic empire with the Earth as its capital. And that's why, as we see in the news just even this week, they're talking about how there are new Earths out there and maybe billions of Earth-like planets just in this galaxy alone. And they even discussed yesterday on CNN that we could even transfer animals and plants from this planet to this new discovered world, and that would survive. So they're getting people ready for transplantation, if you will, just like they did with the moons of Saturn and Jupiter, where they said they were frozen Earths that could be used as colonization. And that is another agenda, because what I want people to understand is that there is no single alien or extraterrestrial agenda. There are literally hundreds of different subspecies visiting our world and have been for eons of time. And many of them, if not all, each have their own agenda. And last October, I did a conference called Alien Agenda, and I went through over 40 different agendas that I knew of. And they range from anywhere from mind control and programming, genetic manipulation, colonization, elimination of humans from the Earth, even using us as species for zoos or experimentation on other worlds, slave race, and on and on. And we do make a distinction between alien and extraterrestrial. I know that many use the terms synonymously, but actually an alien, according to US law, is a physical being who came from another physical world somewhere in this universe. An extraterrestrial can be physical or non-physical and may not necessarily be from our universe. It may be from an alternate or parallel reality. So we must make that distinction, and even they, the interdimensional ones, have their own agenda. For example, over the years at Mountuk and from information I've read from beyond Mountuk, the government and other organizations have had contact with beings who claimed that they were from Earth, but from another reality or parallel timeline from the Earth, where, for example, Atlantis never was destroyed, or where the Nazis did take over, or where there was actually different colonization of the Earth, and so on and so on. But what we have discovered is that it doesn't matter which physical reality or non-physical reality a being exists in, that there's bleed through, energetic bleed through. That's why we have vortices and wormholes, natural and unnatural, all over creation. And energy passes through these. And so when we here on the Earth, we have nuclear explosions, or we have negative chemicals sprayed into the atmosphere, etc., it doesn't just affect our world, but it bleeds through to these other dimensions and other worlds, and it is affecting them and is causing issues. And so that is why I also talk about the Kuiper Belt aliens, or Kuiper Belt group, which is located out towards the rim of our solar system. Richard, I did send you an image of that you can show. And basically, this has been amassing for the last several years. And back in 2004, 5, and 6, CNN, BBC, Fox News was reporting that NASA was stating that objects, planet-sized objects, these strange metallic things were appearing in the Kuiper Belt. And just about every day, there would be a report on it, and it started to get very suspicious. And so then they stopped reporting on it because people said, what are those things? And then, in order to cover it up, which was a brilliant masking, NASA said, well, you know what? The planet Pluto is also a Kuiper Belt object. So it's just a normal procession of things that we're finding there. And Pluto is just one of them. And then they declassify Pluto, that it's not a planet, it's a mini planet, it's a Kuiper Belt object. They went through a whole series of renaming of Pluto. And lo and behold, what did we find out last week? That the US spacecraft that was flying by Pluto took a close-up image, and they said, look, there's a strange object on Pluto, and it looks like a mountain surrounded by a circle. And actually, if you look at it from above, it's almost identical to what I have as my pineal gland hyperspace archetype, which I thought very interesting. Then they went on to say that the surface of Pluto is much more smooth than they originally felt it would be, and apparently much younger. Well, that's because it's an artificial object. And what's also interesting is that they claim now that there are 5 moons surrounding Pluto. And if you know about how planets attract moons and this kind of thing, you would know that a planet, even a small planet the size of Pluto, it's not possible to attract 5 objects to pull around it, some of which are almost the size of Pluto. So obviously there's something else going on here. And then what else they said is behind Pluto is a plume of gases that are coming out behind it, almost like a ship flying through space with propulsion. They're practically telling you this. And then we have to also realize that our own Earth, it's not possible to have a moon the size of our moon because our planet isn't large enough to hold it geomagnetically. So there's a lot about history, science, medicine, you name it, that are not true, and there are cover stories, and that little by little, the truth is being revealed. And unfortunately, sometimes those who reveal the real truth are either eliminated or made to change their tune. So we have to really be very careful about what we say in public. But a person like myself, and with the background of my family, well, I'm not politically correct, and I never will be. So I will just say what needs to be said, and come what may. And hopefully people will start to learn and listen. Because what we need to understand also, Richard, is that they may try to mind control us and make us feel that we're cut off from our source, but they can never, ever remove the God mind within a person. So we are always and forever eternally connected to our source and our creator. And that is what my work is about, to tap into that, expand it, become aware of it, and change everything on this planet to something more benevolent.
Many people are starting to talk about us living in a multidimensional universe where all things are possible and we create our own reality. With this in mind, and the fact it's becoming so important to really choose what we think carefully, tell us more about what people can expect when they join and participate in your upcoming seminars in Europe.
Yes, and also I just wanted to say, Richard, that it's not just Europe. I will be in the Middle East and Asia. So it's going to be quite a long haul for a few months. But yes, we will be talking about the language of hyperspace and what that is, which is really three components. It is color, tone, and symbol. And if you know how to put the hyperspace archetypes together in a formula or a sentence in the proper order and in the proper colors, you can manifest and create anything in your life and physical reality that you wish. And that's what I teach people to do. I'm also going to teach them how to balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain by centering at the pineal gland and using what I call a T-bar, which is a symbol in hyperspace to balance the two hemispheres of the brain. And if we have a chance to go into more depths in the seminars, depending on the situation, I'll actually teach them also how to balance the reptilian brainstem and then balance that with the pineal gland. We will also be talking about the chakra system, the proper version, because unfortunately, since 1965, when the US government created the New Age movement, and it was a government creation, they distorted a lot of the information so that people would not use the right colors and sequences in the right locations, and therefore make their bodies more controllable. So I will teach the proper way to contain the energy, the proper colors, where they're located, how to ground and balance, and how to connect to the oversoul energy, which is the liaison between your soul personality and to the God mind within. So these are just some of what I'll be teaching, as well as deprogramming techniques, protection techniques, proper way to eat and drink, etc., how to remove toxins from the body. It's very, very comprehensive. And I will even teach true world history and galactic history. So it's quite powerful, information-packed seminars that I'll be teaching across Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. I also want to remind people that as far as multidimensional universe, or what some people call a multiverse or an omniverse, so many different terms, all means the same thing. We have to remember that we are not human beings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And we are, in a sense, essentially eternal and immortal. And we simply take our bodies and change them from one to the other, just like you change clothing. And so this is how we have to look at ourselves, as immortal, eternal beings with all the time in creation to learn and to upgrade ourselves. And we create constantly. And if we're aware of how we create, it helps us to manifest properly. For example, I always use the analogy: the thoughts are like the film, the brain is the projector, and physical reality is the film. So if you don't like the movie that's playing around you, you have to change the film, which is the way you think. And that's part of what I do, is to teach, to analyze the mind pattern, do release work on the negative mind patterns and emotion, replace them with something more beneficial and positive. And we also have to grow up the child within, because most of us have had trauma or experiences in our childhood which have left us emotionally stagnant at a particular age. And we as adults then tend to react to circumstances from that child perspective. And it usually doesn't end well. So it's a good idea to grow up the child within, and I'll be teaching that type of exercise, as well as how to release those who have negatively influenced you in your life, so that you no longer have the imprinting of those negative mind patterns as a repetitive software in your life. Also to recognize that the brain is simply a device. It's not the mind. You are mind. Your soul personality is mind. There's only one mind in all of creation. And the brain uses the energy of the mind in order to interact with the physical reality. So that's another thing that we need to look at. I will also be teaching in my work alternative healing techniques, just using your own mind, and how to use proper herbs and supplements and proper way to exercise. In fact, I've created an exercise routine called Hypersize, which the videos are on my YouTube channel, and where I combine the hyperspace energies and symbols and colors with physical exercise. And your body recognizes that, and you can achieve amazing results in a very relatively short period of time. So I do teach that. And by the way, I also am a certified personal trainer. So I combine all of that with the mental work as well. I also teach you how to reintegrate the fragmented compartments of the programming matrix that's in the mind using a symbol called Brown merger, which acts as a energetic needle and thread to reintegrate the fragmented components of the mind. So there's so much to do, Richard. And well, you know, I always talk about how the agenda is in full process right now, especially concerning a staged alien invasion and a staged second coming of Christ. So these are actually in process at the moment. So we must do our work immediately. There's no time to waste, no time to fool around. You know, the curtain is up, the play is on the stage, we're all in front row seats, and we need to participate and get the work done. We're not here by accident. Everybody that is on this planet at this moment came for a reason. That's why there's 7.5 billion people and growing. Never before have there been so many people on this planet at once. And that's because the show that is unfolding is a one-time show only, and those who come to participate will not have to do that ever again. So we need to make sure we do it right the first time.
Stewart, for all those people that are waking up from the Matrix now and can't get to see you on any of your seminar dates, how can they find out more information on how to deprogram themselves and prepare for the coming events? I know you run webinars, one of which is entitled Green Star Programming, but can you tell us a little more about this webinar?
Yes, Richard. In fact, we just concluded the last part of that webinar last night, and it should be available on my website shortly on expansions.com. And I believe you might have to be a member to get that. We have a member side of our website, and we also have, Richard, a Facebook fan page for Expansions, as well as personal one from myself and from my wife Janet. So people can also go to Facebook and look us up, and please like our pages. That would be wonderful. But as far as Green Star is concerned, and it's good you brought this up, because as I've mentioned about the staged alien invasion, which in my opinion is in process at the moment, the beginnings of it, this is about alien interaction and presence on the planet, and the public announcement that the Earth is going to be attacked. That's the staged alien invasion. They will use a technology called Blue Beam, or the Blue Beam Project, which can project holographic images into the ionosphere of the planet so that it will look like spaceships are in the atmosphere, laser beams are hitting the Earth, and they will use satellite transmissions for laser technology to make it look like we're being attacked. And then we will find that the United Nations will ask all governments to join together, because it'd be the only way that we can defend the planet against these invaders. And we may not see them, we may not be shown who or what they are, only the vehicles that are flying in the atmosphere, and perhaps some warning that's being transmitted to the various governments. So it will be used to create the official or public global government, global army, and then we will have a new alien race that will come and chase away the attackers to defend us. And these, of course, will be presented as the reptilians, and they will claim that they are our ancestors, that they created us. That's why we have reptilian brainstem. That's why a fetus is androgynous in utero, because We are descendants of these reptilians, and so from them will come the New World Religion, and the second coming of Christ, which is a cloned version, which I wrote about in my Mountuk Alien Connection book, and I believe in Blue Blood as well. And that is how they will consolidate government, religion, army, etc., so that those who do not believe that this is true, they will have a problem, because when they test the genetics of the second coming of Christ to prove who he is, it will match identically with the genetic material that is found on the Shroud of Turin. Now, you may recall that there was a time when the Shroud of Turin was considered to be a hoax. It was removed from the church. Then there was a fire in the church and everything was destroyed. Bottom line is, a piece of that shroud wound up at Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And they tested it and said, guess what? This shroud is 2,000 years old, and there are pollen samples in the shroud that could have only come from ancient Israel at the time. So in effect, re-verifying the shroud. And they also said, guess what? There's also an electromagnetic image, not only on the front, but on the back. And this could only have been caused by a major microwave or electromagnetic pulse of great intensity that would have caused the embedding of these images on both the front and the back. So how could that have happened 2,000 years ago, unless it was a major divine event? And so they put the shroud back in the church, and Janet and I have visited that church and had taken photographs of that shroud, and it looks quite impressive. So that's how they will verify. They will verify the genetics of the new Christ with the shroud. And that's why they have created that event around the shroud. They will then create a global society based on androgyny, based on the New World Religion. Remember now, Vatican recently has stated that aliens exist and that they are our brothers in Christ. And in fact, the Vatican said, these beings are so under the grace of God that they don't even have to believe in the religion anymore. So first of all, how does the Vatican know that? And second of all, they're setting you up for this New World Religion. As you know, this Pope, Petros Romanos, is the last Pope. After him, he's preparing for the New World Religion. And he's constantly allowing changes in Christianity that never ever have existed before, which in effect you can see him installing the pieces of the New World Religion almost on a monthly basis. And I think it's very interesting that he's coming to the US in September, just around the date of what I have referred to in my prophecy webinar as the Shemitah year. Will begin on September 13th, and the Pope comes about 10 days after. Financial collapse, a change in governments, a lot of things happening, people, towards the end of this year and especially next year. So back to how will people find out about all this information? Yes, if you go to expansions.com, you will find all of our webinars, our seminars on there on the YouTube channel. You can learn from that. I have my books that you can read and learn. You never know, I can be in your area. You never know. You just have to check my schedule and see where I'll be. Sometimes I don't even know where I'm going to be till I look at the schedule, but I'm always somewhere. And of course, even if you're not able to attend a webinar or a seminar, I do personal consultations, both email, phone, Skype, however is convenient for you. I make myself available. I do monthly blogs every week, so to give you information. And we have a free podcast every week on our site that gives you the information and the news and the interpretation of the news, so that you can understand what's going on now and what you can do about it.
This is the end of part 1 of my interview with Stewart Swerdlow. Join us for part 2 shortly, where you can get more information on this amazing human being, the important knowledge he's trying to get out there about the true chronology of this planet, healthy eating, and how to help clear your pineal gland. Join me next time on New Dimensions TV.